Aloha and welcome back to another episode of Alaka'i, the podcast. I'm your host, Eli Hadley. Today I have the special privilege of welcoming a new host, Mutia.
All right. Aloha, guys.
Good to have you here, Mutia. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Sure. All right. So my name is Mutia Parasduhita, and to be honest, this is going to be a brand new thing for me. I'm majoring in communication, and I think it's kind of good to go explore something out of the class and apply the things that I learned from my classes. And yeah, I'm from Indonesia. I'm currently the last year of junior. So I'm kind of excited to be participated in this Alaka'i, the podcast this semester.
Awesome. It's good to have you here, Mutia. And today we have two very special guests. We have Gatlin and we have Timothy. And they're both TAs. So today is going to be all about what is it like being a TA, which that stands for teaching assistant, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was looking at it on Google. I was like, I'm pretty sure it does, but what is it, like teacher associate? I don't know. But yeah, would you two mind introducing yourselves, like your name, where you're from, your major, one fun fact about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Maybe Gatlin would like to go first.
Sure, yeah. My name's Gatlin Jordan. I'm from Utah, really small town called Moroni. I'm a psychology major. I don't know. My daughter just turned 18 months today.
Yay.
So it's really exciting. My wife's
Congratulations.
due in September, so we're going to have a little baby boy. So
Wow.
we're excited.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Nice to know you, Gatlin. My name is Timothy Samad. People call me by Tim. I'm from Indonesia. And some people ask me which city am I from. I really want to show off by saying Jakarta because people knows that place so much. But I would say I'm proudly from a small city called South Tangerang, or which Indonesian called Tangerang Selatan.
Mm-hmm.
And I am 22 years old. I just got engaged this year.
Yay.
A couple months ago, actually.
Congratulations.
And we're going to get married in July. And yeah, I'm so excited studying here in BYU-Hawaii. I'm currently a teaching assistant for the business management department.
That's awesome. Actually, yeah, that's what I told people too. I'm from Jakarta, but actually just off Jakarta. All right, so a little bit about you guys. So how long have you been teaching as a teaching assistant?
So for me, I became a teaching assistant for about almost 6 months now. And it's been great, yeah. I started winter semester from January until right now, spring semester, still continuing working as a TA.
Was it your freshman year when you started then?
It was still my freshman year, yes. So I became a TA on my third semester, and then now I'm entering my sophomore year, which is my fourth semester. So it's still counted as my freshman year.
That's actually impressive. What about you, Gatlin?
Yeah, kind of similarly. So this is my 6th semester and my 3rd semester as a TA. So
Wow.
yeah, my 3rd semester, spring of last year, I approached my professor because I knew he was going to be needing a TA. And I was like, hey, can I be your teaching assistant? And he's like, obviously, I've just been waiting for you. So yeah, it was just really great.
Cool. So being TA for a couple months for both of you guys, is there any like stereotypes that you get from people place in like your majors or whatever it is, like, oh, you're smarter than me or whatever it is as a TA?
Honestly, yes. There's a lot of stereotypes of being a TA. People always think of, yeah, just talk to the TA, ask to the TA and expecting they will know all the answers. Actually, we don't. Sometimes we also don't know how to manage with Canvas, or there's some error that's happening on Canvas that's just we just don't know how to solve it. However, being a TA is not meaning that you're smarter, but you're just trying to help other students with their assignments or with their grades, and you just want to help the professor as well. So you're like the mediator between the professor and the students, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say just exactly that. I think it's kind of an interesting life being a teaching assistant because you're not the professor and you're not a student. So you kind of have to try to balance both of those and do what's in the best interest of your professor, but also try to advocate for the students a little bit too. And you really are kind of on call all the time. I'll get students messaging me like 11 o'clock because they're like, oh, my assignment's due. Can you do this thing for me? And I'm like, It's 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of balance a lot of that. Whereas, yeah, you kind of field a lot of the students coming in because they typically go to the TA first before going to the professor.
Yes.
Maybe it's a kinder face to turn to.
And sometimes even the professor referred to the TA. So
Wow.
yeah, we get and once again, like Gatlin says, we get on-call duties where we just not around, like 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. when students, I forgot to turn it on time. My Canvas doesn't work. I already submitted on 12 exactly at 11:59. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So kind of curious, did you reply to those kind of requests from the students when you're already clocking out?
So typically it kind of depends, right? Whereas I do have set office hours some semesters and some semesters I haven't. And so typically if I'm awake and I can resolve the issue, I try my best to, just because I want to alleviate some of that stress. But sometimes it's like, yeah, it's the middle of the night, I'm completely exhausted, I'll get to it in the morning, kind of a thing. And 99% of the time the issue isn't as severe as it may seem to the student, right? If it's something like, yeah, I submitted it at 12:01 or Canvas wasn't working, right? Those are going to be easy issues to resolve.
Honestly, I really agree with Gatlin just says. I can't say for everyone else, but for me, because some TAs, they set a boundaries like, okay, I'm going to answer or reply this email on my work hours. So they already set a boundaries. Okay, I work from, for example, 3 hours. That's the only time I'm going to reply to the students, right? But some situations, the students may ask something that you can answer right away. And once again, it depends on whether we are available or not, whether we're tired or not. Then yeah, sometimes we always answered or replied right away. Yeah.
Interesting. And then, because I think sometimes TAs are the overlooked people, right? They're not like they're there, right? But students might only see them like, okay, the TA can help me. They don't recognize the TA's contributions. But I'd like to ask you guys, what is your favorite part about being a TA? What makes it rewarding for you, regardless of any struggles you might have?
Honestly, for me, my favorite part of being a TA is to know the students and work well with the students. Because here in BYU-Hawaii, it's mostly international students. You can't find anywhere else that most of them are international students. It's a great opportunity for me to expand my friendship, my relationship with others. So that's my favorite part, and just get to know them and have more friends from all over the country. So that's probably my favorite part.
Nice.
Yeah, probably kind of a twofold part. One is that these are classes that we're TAing for that we've already taken. And so it's just kind of the joy to go back and to go through the material, to learn it all over again, to be able to learn through teaching, right? I think it's a lot more special than just taking the class, right? I don't have to stress about the exam. I don't have to stress about the assignment. I can just kind of have the joy of the material. And with that, kind of like Tim was talking about, I've loved connecting with the other students, right? And being able to work with someone who's struggling on something, or who just a concept isn't clicking, right? And work with them and get them to the point where they do their exam. Oh, it clicked. They got it. And it's so rewarding to be like, I taught them something. I helped them, right? To really see these students kind of come in and go out better and more knowledgeable. I think that's really a rewarding part of the job.
I love that.
Oh, that's great.
And in regards to that too, like, you talked about you're taking a class, well, you're not taking it, but you're TAing for a class you've had before. And, Gatlin, I know you have a love of learning. I know you do too as well, Tim. What can you say about, like, the things you've learned as a TA? Like the biggest, most important things you've learned?
Well, honestly, some of the classes that I'm TAing for, there are also some classes that I haven't taken. So for some of the classes that I have taken, I also still learn something new from it. For example, something that I learned is to remind myself again about the principle of business and how I can make it better. Because sometimes after you finish a whole semester of classes, you forget some things, and then you're trying to rewind yourself from the class that you just took. And then another thing that I learned as becoming a TA is how to manage people, because your professor, you're a teaching assistant for a professor, and sometimes professor doesn't want to. Oh, I don't have to deal with this small stuff. It can be done by the TA, so the professor can just be full on deck, just on the teaching or the lecture part. So that's one thing I really learned, is to manage how can this class is. I'm also part of this class of teaching it, but not necessarily giving a lecture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something that's been really kind of mind-opening to me after becoming a TA is getting to kind of see the other side, right? We're all students here, right? And so we kind of have that student view and that student perspective, but to be able to go and see what the professors have to deal with has definitely made me more empathetic to some of my professors and made me kind of think about myself as a student maybe in a different light. But it's been really fascinating to learn, the process of how they put together classes, how they structure modules, how they deal with students, and just to get to talk to them. I think that's my favorite thing, is just to sit down in meetings with Dr. Beckstead and just like talk to him about different concepts or how we're going to address certain issues or that kind of thing. And it's just so much more than what you can gain in a classroom, that it's like, I feel kind of selfish that I'm like, oh, this is my job, that I just get to go and foster this relationship and learn all this kind of insider information. That's just like, it's fascinating. And I know it's going to be so worthwhile going forward, going to graduate school and beyond, right? That what I'm learning here as a TA is impactful.
Yeah, I also thought about when you become a TA, well, like Gatlin says, you get to see the other side of not becoming a student.
Yeah.
You also see what's the teacher struggling too. So sometimes when we were a student, we were always thinking, like, this professor only think what he wants. He only asked this for this. But when you get to know with the teacher and why are they putting some courses or learning objectives, it kind of makes sense. It kind of stick together and it will help the students. So be patient with the teachers.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to see the perspective from TA, because sometimes I'm looking for help from TA too, and then I expect more than what actually they should do. And I think just something came out of my mind, like, what was the first thought came to your mind that, okay, one day I woke up and I want to be a TA? What kind of like love that you have to your major that makes you feel like, okay, I want to be in it?
Right. So because I'm a business management major and I'm a TA for a business management, it really, it made it, every time I wake up, I really want to do this, because when you learn about something you're passionate about, you won't stop, doing it. You won't get bored. I mean, sometimes you get bored. It's just you have the drive of doing it. So for me, as a TA, one thing that I always makes me up and then want to do something is how can I manage people? How can I help my professor and the students so they're on the right track of this semester or for this week? For example, like on the modules, is it all set? Is it aligned with the schedule? Are there any things that is missing on the canvas? Just to make, just make it yours. So when I become a TA, I promise myself, I want to do this 100% and not just, do it for 50% and then slacking some job. Because sometimes being a TA, there's also some flexibility of your time. But if you don't do it in a most effective way, you will be wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think definitely for me it started my second semester here. I joined the research lab after harassing Dr. Beckstead after every one of his classes my first semester. But yeah, so I joined research and I loved it. And I just wanted more and more of it. And so, yeah, when I had that opportunity to become a teaching assistant and to be able to kind of, like I said, gain that deeper conceptual basis, right, through learning and teaching students and also kind of building these relationships, it's driven me forward in my research interests. It's driven me forward in just my educational experience and interests. So it's just, I think it's like the perfect job. If you're interested in learning more about your subject and helping others, it's the best way. It's a pretty common thing, but it's like you learn through teaching others. And I think that's so true. And I just have loved getting more familiar with psychology through helping other people understand it.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, you know, especially because psychology and business are two very different fields, right? And, you know, I'm really wondering too, like, you deal with a lot of complex questions, very complex, you know, themes, complex ideas and concepts. How do you manage, like, the students asking you to help understand it? Because, like, I mean, you've taken the class before, but you're now understanding it from the professor's point of view. What is it like with helping students build in that relationship?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult sometimes, particularly with topics that maybe are more familiar to me, right? To have to try to slow down and think about how are they thinking about it, how are they understanding it, where's the hang up, where's the issue that we can work on, and really just trying to work with them where they're at. And oftentimes they'll be like, maybe it's a language issue, maybe it's a culture issue. And so it's just, yeah, it's been great to really get to meet people from very diverse backgrounds, and to just take that time with them. I think sometimes professors get really busy, and so they don't have enough time to be able to work with each student individually. But as a TA, I've had some really phenomenal experiences working with people who, like I said earlier, they're just struggling. And it's not because they're not intelligent. It's not because they're dumb or something that they might believe. It's just, it's hard, right? And these are tricky concepts, especially once you start to get up to the higher division classes. It's complicated. And so really helping students sometimes maybe it's a case of being comfortable with not understanding everything perfectly, and just letting that be something that motivates you. And then sometimes maybe it's, all right, where are you understanding? Let's build from there. And I think you kind of have to work from there, where it's like, that's why we're here. That's why we're learning. We're not supposed to know everything, but you should use it. That shouldn't shut you down. It should build off where you are, and so that we can go forth and learn more.
That's so true. I mean, I think it's, you know, no one can know everything, right? And so we all start at a different point in life. And I like what you said, Gatlin, about, you know, we have to be comfortable with not knowing everything. We have to understand it's okay not to have all the answers, but also at the same time, we should not give up, you know, trying to gain that knowledge, because our purpose in life, right, is to gain knowledge as best we can.
True.
Yeah. How about you, Timothy?
For me, actually, I really agree with what Gatlin says. And it comes to two principles that came to my mind. First one is honesty. If you don't know the answer, then you don't know. In business, we have a term called "it is what it is." If the price is going down, it is going down. If it's going up, then you make profits. And once again, students came to us asking questions that we may know some of the questions, and we try our best. We do our best to answer the questions and fill the gap to their understanding. But there were some specific questions that students are looking for, and we just don't know. And it's okay to say, I don't know for this answer, but I can refer you to someone that will help you better. So that's a good part of being a TA, because you know other TAs that in the different fields that might know the answers. You know some professors that also have a better answer to that question. And the second principle is understanding. So when you are given a question by the student, you have to understand first, like, what's the question and why is this student asking this type of question? Because when you understand I think he's talking about this, he's talking about this module, this talking about this lesson, then we can find a better way to answer it. When we can go around with the answers and find the best, answers to them.
I love that. And I think too, it's the collaborative effort of learning is so important, right? We're learning from one another. And I think also understanding, because we have great respect for the TAs, but we also know TAs are human. Even professors are human, right? Sometimes it's hard to believe because they're so smart, but they are still learning things every single day. And so understanding that knowledge is this lifelong process is so important. And on that topic too of the relationship of TA and student, how do you because you might be a friend to them, but where's the line drawn between being a friend and a TA?
I think it's like really gray line. Yeah. You don't know really exact line.
That is a really good question, actually, because most of the students that we are TAing for are our friends. And it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting because when you have a friend ask you for help, that's when life gets tricky. Gets tricky because they're your friends, you want to help them, but there's also another line: how far can you help them? For example, I already submit this points, but I'm missing these few points. Can you give me an extra points? Oh, I wish I could, but you made it wrong. So once again, it's pretty hard to to see us, not giving them points, but at the same time we have to create that boundaries for ourselves. When you become a friend outside of the TA stuff, yeah, you'll be, as a normal friend. But when it comes to a class module or learning objectives, then it is what it is. When your TA job, yeah, just, you can't give extra points if they're marked it wrong.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it can get really tricky, particularly because you are building relationships with these students. And I can think of countless times where I've gone through and I've been working on helping maybe grade an assignment or something, and a student I've been working with comes and her thing is there and it's, it's so close, and I want to be more lenient with her, right? And it's difficult. It really is to try to draw that line and say, but something that has helped is kind of thinking about, am I really helping them to give them this points? Like, maybe that's going to matter a lot to them. But is it really going to help their education in the broader range? And then also to like Tim was saying, set those kind of boundaries and say, all right, well, I can't be lenient on this, right? Like we are obviously lenient with all students. Professors are as well, depending on who it is. But just setting the boundaries of, I can help them get to the assignment, and then they have to do that themselves, right? I can help them review and prepare for the exam, but I can't take it for them, right? And so just setting that boundary of like, okay, now they've done it, and we just have to put that aside, and I'm not really their friend right now. I'm the grader, or I'm the whatever. And it's really difficult, but it's been really interesting to kind of learn how to do that, and yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so since probably like most students will listen to it, like what kind of expectation you think the student can make before they come to you?
The expectation for them so when they come to us, right? So don't expect us to know everything. Some of your question, we may know the answers. If we do know the answer, we obviously gonna give you the answer. But if we don't, then we might gonna find another way to help you out. But also know that when you come to a TA, to any TAs or to professor, you also need to ask with the right question, because you don't want to come with a random questions, because that would not helpful for you. So for students to come to the TA with a right question, with a specific and detailed that we're gonna be benefit for them, and then the TA knows the answer or the professor knows the answer, it will be really beneficial for them. So it's kind of win-win situation. So we can help you, but if we don't know the question is. So.
Yeah, I definitely think kind of a running theme throughout this podcast so far, just remembering that we're human, right? Yeah. And I keep thinking a lot about this semester. It's been really hard sometimes to stay on top of school and work and family and TA and all of that, because it's just such a crazy semester. Spring semester.
It is.
And so just have patience. I know most students are really great at that, but understanding sometimes it's really hard to respond back to you. Sometimes it's hard to find the time to meet. It's not because we don't like you. It's not because we don't want you to succeed. It's just we're also really trying hard for our own selves. But with that, I think I really like that response that you gave, Tim, about questions and coming with the right question. Because again, there's only so much I can help you if I'm just kind of guessing at it, or if I'm just trying to help you. I just recently ran a review for a developmental psychology exam, and it was just really hard when students don't have questions about things. And so it's like, I just have to kind of say, well, make sure maybe you know some of these things, but it's harder for me. But if someone comes to me and says, hey, I've been really struggling with, this principle, I've been really struggling with Bronfenbrenner, right? I can be like, oh, that's great. I can talk to you about that, right? And so just really try to come with some questions in mind. And typically students do, but just making sure that it's clear to you where you're struggling, and then we can better assist you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And by the way, we're not complaining at all. We're just we're just eager to help you. And another thing is, when you come to the TA, you don't need to see us as just a TA. Oh, this is just a TA, and I need to get to know with them. But be friend with them. We want to have more friends too as a TA, because sometimes people or students look as the the assistant of the professor. But we actually want to hang out with you. We actually want to be. We want to know you and expand our networking too.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for reminding us about that, because we really need to appreciate the existence of TA here on campus. And talking about human life and student life too, how do you manage to make sure that you have time for people around you, people in your life, like family or fiance or whoever it is?
Cool. Yeah, I have an idea. So this is what I did. I put on the modules, I put an announcement saying meet your TA, and then there's a details about me and my phone number, about myself, and then there's a small note I put, do not call me on Friday night.
Oh, okay.
So to state that clear boundary of your time and being a TA time, it makes a lot of difference. You don't want to do a lot of multitasking sometimes. If you do things simultaneously, you won't be feeling happier, because once again, we're still human, and I still have to go on a date with my fiance on Friday nights, or just like you guys, you students, you don't want to have a professor saying there's an assignment due tomorrow. It will be hurting for you, right? So it's the same thing for a TA. We typically, when we do have time, when we have spare time, oh, you know what, I can actually help the student right now, then I can do it. But if not, it's okay to create boundaries for ourselves. It's healthy.
Yeah, I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but the work schedule of a TA is really all over the place, right?
Yeah.
A lot of jobs are like 9 to 5, or they have specific hours, but we're kind of all over the place. And if you look at my work day, it's like 15 minutes here, half an hour here, an hour here, right? Where it's like I'm kind of getting things done as they need to be, or as they rise up. Or if students like, hey, can we meet? And I'll meet them. But I think it's really trying to be clear on here's when I can meet, here's, working with them, and then also finding times where you're like, I'm not going to respond in this time. I have a daughter, 18 months old, right? And so I do my best. My wife is a saint, and she helps me so much. But I do my best to keep my my nights free, right? I after like 3 p.m., 3 p.m., it's just family time. I help around the house. We have dinner. I play with my daughter. And that goes all the way up until she falls asleep. And then I work really late. And so I'm sure a lot of students are like amazed, because they'll like, their papers will be graded at like 11, 12 o'clock, right? But that's really helped me a lot to say, all right, I'm just not going to respond to emails, or I'm not going to respond to things during this time, because that's the only time I really have with my family and my daughter. And that's important. And it wouldn't benefit anyone to just kind of be taking too much on all at the same time.
And even sometimes on Sundays. So we won't answer anything on Sunday, actually, because that's counted as working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just, again, be patient with us. We really aren't trying to overlook you. We're not trying to forget about you. We're doing our best. So I just want to apologize to all of the students out there that I've, maybe I haven't gotten back to you fast enough, but we're doing our best, and we really do want you to succeed. I think that's a big misconception that we want to get out of the place. Professors are here for you. TAs are here for you. We want you to learn and succeed. We are not here to beat you down or give you a bad grade. That's not what we want. It breaks my heart every semester when I see students that didn't do as well as I know they wanted to, and I'm like, I wish I could have just got you that extra step. So trust me, it hurts us as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, with that desire being said, I just wanted you guys to know that you deserve your time. You deserve your own time, because you've been doing a lot for the students here.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's really great that we're doing this TA episode. And it was actually Mutia's idea. And I thought it was amazing because TAs and others, like, they're overlooked, right? Or at least I feel they're overlooked. I think they're such like a permanent fixture in college classes that we're like, oh, TA will do it. The TA's got this. They got this, right? Check the TA out, right?
Like all the answers student could get.
Exactly. They're like they're a dictionary. Like they know everything, right? You just go to them and boom.
We're Canvas expert.
Honestly, Canvas experts too. And I think it's really cool though. Obviously it's a job, but you're taking the knowledge you learned and you're able to give back to the students who they're in the same place you were a couple of years ago. Is that kind of, do you kind of feel that, like, seeing them grow the way you grew in knowledge?
Yeah, definitely. It's been really great, especially to see other students, because again, they're your classmates too, right? So I'm a psychology major, and I'm a TA in the psychology department. So I oftentimes have classes with students, and so I'll have students who I was their TA, and now I see them doing really well, and they're getting a really great job or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool that I helped. Maybe I didn't really, but helped kind of get them to that point.
Yeah, it's kind of such a relief for me to see some of the students after they took the class, they actually apply it to their interests. For example, some of them offered to do an internship in the same field that the class they just took, and I was able to help them with specific assignments or specific networks that can, make them to be on that point, which is awesome to see. Yeah. Of course, and we're so happy to see students. That's our main point as a TA. Honestly, if we can give straight A's to all the students, we would. It's a matter of you want to do it or not. Like, we can help you, of course, but yeah, there's still a boundaries how we can help you too. So,
and honestly, just maybe this is a side note, but biggest public service announcement is please just talk to us. Talk to your professors. You're going to do so much better. I know a lot of people have this kind of impression, it's scary, or it's too hard, or I don't want to ask for help. But that's how I've grown so much. That's how I've had a ton of opportunities open to me just by taking that leap to talk to them, make that connection, because you're just going to be so much better off for it. So yeah, just take that little leap of faith. We're not that scary if you prefer to talk to us instead of the professors, but really talk to your professors too. They're really insightful and they want to help you succeed. They love their material and they want others to love their material as well.
And also another thing, just how grateful it is being in BYU-Hawaii. We're as a small campus, people know each other, and sometimes in one class you only have how many, 30, 20 students inside of the class, or maybe less than that. So professor knows the students. Who are they? I know maybe some college, they have a bigger class, 60 students, and the professor won't know each one of them. So yeah, you utilize those opportunities to talk with your professors.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's true, right? You got to take advantage of all the opportunities we have here at BYU-Hawaii, because it is a place of promise. It is a place of gathering and love, and aloha, right? It means love. And I think, it's cool too, because as TAs, you can look back, you can study, and like Gatlin, you're a researcher. What's the coolest thing you're studying right now?
So got a couple of things. One, I had a paper that I co-wrote with Dr. Beckstead that we got published last month, which was really cool.
Nice.
Kind of looking at the politics of kind of navigating the street and the direct and indirect political participation that occurs. So that was really cool. And the other research that we've been doing that I presented on recently was looking into divination and divinatory practices and kind of how people relate with different objects and the kind of different meanings that they construct around, the Bible or the magic 8-ball or something like an automatic writing device, something like that, right? Where we have all these different devices that we've constructed across cultures, and we each kind of make our own meanings. This is appropriate, this is inappropriate, this is sacred, this is not sacred, right? And just kind of seeing how people interact or don't interact with them, and it's really kind of the phenomenological aspect of that.
Awesome. How about you, Tim? What are you studying?
I'm studying business right now still.
Okay.
Honestly. And another thing that I'm really focusing on is actually helping these students have different set of groups where they are going to come up with a product idea. So either a product idea or a project idea, we have one class that is focusing on a project idea for the PCC. So we know there's a issue in the PCC that we want to cover in, and it's kind of really cool because I'm part of the managing those students on creating their ideas or finalizing their idea and add value to the PCC. And another class that's going on with their product idea, it's kind of interesting because I'm not just grading them, but I'm also helping part of their product idea. So it's really cool to see how I get some insights about cool ideas for business, cool ideas for marketing, cool ideas about financing, and I get to learn all this stuff with the students, which is awesome.
I love that. Yeah, it's I think the joy of learning too, right? You know, we're told by the prophets to keep on learning. Education is it's not just a privilege, but it's a commandment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you see, like, obviously we're all different, we're all, you know, very small people in this big world, but how do you see your interactions with students? How do you see that, like, contributing to the university's mission?
Yeah, well, I definitely think we're kind of the front line of that, right? We get to interact with a lot of students. We get to make a lot of impact on people, and to go forth back to their countries. A lot of psychology, which is my department, has just been pretty Western focused, right? There hasn't been a lot of researchers. There are more now that are in other countries, and it's something that we need so much. And so to try to take this thing that's beautiful and it's just so interesting, and there's so much we don't understand about the human psyche, and to be able to inspire other students to maybe go back to their countries and to start researching and doing applying these things has been really, really fantastic. Recently I went to a conference in Japan, and it was just really cool to get to see people from all around the world come there, and to see psychology and their perspective of it coming from a more Asian perspective, right? It was, I don't know, it's just really cool. And so I think just trying to inspire students to take what we're learning and then go forth and do something more with it. Bring your own culture, add to it, and it's just fantastic to see.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really agree. What about you, Tim?
I think it's such a perfect place to go forward and serve, because we have a lot of international students. As a business, the business department, they really encourage the students to create impact back to their home country. Now, when talking about business, you will ideally think about, creating a company or build, a sustainable business. Well, it's not just you doing it there. You can actually doing it from here. One of the example you might heard about Enactus program, which is by the Willis Center International, and they have done a couple projects, and one of them is a company that is thriving in the Philippines, and it was run by a student here. He was only thinking of an idea, and he developed it with the business professors, entrepreneurship centers too, and then he create the business plan, create the company, and then after he go back to his home country, he literally create a company that helps thousands of farmers in his home country, which is really cool. So that's why, as being a TA, we don't want students just to came to school and studying and not creating an impact. We want students to have a good experience, a good amount of learning, which they can go back to their own countries to build something and help others people's lives.
That's good. I love it. It's becoming something better, right? Becoming something new and reaching one's potential. And like you said, the TAs, right? They're a part of that, right? They're a part of the structure we have at BYU-Hawaii, from professors, from just anyone, right? To build, a body of people who loved Christ, who are going to use their education for the better of other people. So it's pretty cool. We have here 2 people who are part of that. So, but our show is almost over, but we want to ask if there's anything you guys would like to say in closing.
A word of wisdom or whatever it is.
Anything?
No, just something that occurred to me is just how blessed that we are to be here at this school, right? Being in the science department, religion and science don't always seem to line up. But it's been really amazing to see the professors and my professor, how they're able to kind of integrate the two and to not have to see them at arms, right? And to be able to pull in people's cultural backgrounds, people's ethnic backgrounds, people's religious backgrounds, and to have that inform your research and bring to light something more beautiful and more insightful. And just, that's what I love about BYU-Hawaii. It's just we get to have all these people from around the world come here with different backgrounds. We don't have to be afraid of that. We don't have to try to turn off biases or say like, oh, well, we can't talk about religion because that doesn't line up. But no, how do they play together? Where do they agree? And I love that.
Yeah, probably for me is to keep moving forward and always learn for something, although you're already an A student, although you're already smart, or even though you're already a TA and you have a high GPA, doesn't mean that there's always room for growth. There's always room for learn. There's also another skill sets that you want to learn, and go for it, and don't be afraid of try something new and learn something from it, and maybe beneficial for other people as well.
I love that. Well, Gatlin and Tim, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. And anyone who's listening, respect your TAs. Send them a box of chocolates or some flowers. Just think.
Remember love that.
Thank you.
Remember that everyone does so much for the betterment of the university, and yeah.
Well, I think that's all from us. Thank you so much for coming to Alaka'i.
Of course, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, guys.
See you next episode.